This conference will now be recorded.
Oh boy. Do we have a quorum?
Yes, we do have a quorum. 3 members, yourself, member Dobreen, and member Woodbury.
We don't have the OPP.
Not yet. They do have the invite. We can get started and
Well,
Okay, Alan.
since we do have a quorum,
Yep.
we can start the meeting. But as far as the chair goes, he's incapacitated due to a vision problem. I had eye surgery yesterday, and I can't read a darn thing. So the chair
Well, I hope it goes well. Vice Chair Alan Dobreen will take over then.
Very
I'll call
good, thank you.
I'll call this meeting to order. And confirmation of agenda. Be it resolved that the board confirm the agenda as presented.
Jim can move it and I'll second.
Perfect. Declaration of pecuniary interest. And if you don't have one now, you can raise one anytime during the meeting. Adoption of the minutes. Be it resolved that the board approve the minutes from May 7, 2022 Police Services Board meeting as presented. Need a mover.
Okay, I'll move it, and I guess Jim's going to second this time.
Yeah, we'll just alternate.
Yeah.
And business arising. I guess there is none. And I guess we're going to have to, well, detachment commander's report. I suppose what I can say is we're all pretty big people and we should have been able to read it. If they're able to join us, that's great. But if not, and when they do join us, I'll just have them hit the highlights.
so we just need a mover and seconder to put it on the floor. And then if there's any discussion amongst yourselves.
Okay, so I guess Jim's moving and I'm seconding this one.
Okay, perfect. Be it resolved that the board receive the items of correspondence. I think there was one on the last meeting.
Sorry, Vice Chair Dobreen. Was there any discussion on the detachment commander report, or was it just carried to be received as information?
Just to be received.
Okay, thank you. So then just a mover and seconder for correspondence.
I forget whose turn it is, but
Holly, just keep alternating, mover and seconder, back and forth.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, yeah. So Mayor Woodbury will
Go to new and unfinished business. Well, that's quiet, so we'll move on. Members' privilege, good news and celebrations. If no one has anything, I do.
okay.
Alan Dobreen. I would like to thank Dale Pallister for his service to the Southgate community, many years on council, and recently our Police Services Board. He will be missed. And that's all I have on that. Anyone else?
Yeah, I would, probably a little premature since they're not here, but I would like to thank Inspector Richardson for accepting the position of detachment commander, and also to thank Deborah Anderson, the present detachment commander, for the fine work that she has done. She had made a remarkable change on the reporting for the boards. It was an excellent job, and she deserves a lot of credit.
Agreed.
But I wonder whether or not we should have our normal half-hour wait before we close the meeting. If we do that,
I've,
is that
Do we
Actually-
have the OP? Do we have the
Yeah.
OPT?
We don't, Vice Chair Dobreen. I've emailed all three of them, or two of them, Deb and Paul, and the admin Riley that we deal with. But they have the invite, so it's very odd, but I haven't got a response to my email yet. Procedurally, we're allowed 20 minutes, so we can leave it open if we want till, what would 20 minutes be, about 9:35 at this point? 9:30. But that's up to you guys, I guess. But yeah, this is odd. They're usually always here, so I'm not sure what's going on.
Well, as the chair, I'm going to give them about another 5 minutes. That's it.
Okay. So let's say maybe 10 after. Oh,
10
hang on,
after,
I might
that's
have
fine.
emailed.
the procedural bylaw calls for 20 minutes to half an hour.
Oh, Deb just emailed me, said she'll be on shortly, so.
Very
Oh,
good.
good.
Mhm.
20 minutes is a long time to listen to crickets.
Yeah, it is, but
She should be on momentarily.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning,
Hi.
everybody.
Morning.
Sorry about being late. Couldn't seem to get logged in.
Oh, Richard will be joining shortly. He's just getting logged on.
I'm having some audio problems now.
Can
you hear us, Holly?
now? Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, it's not working well for me.
Send a smoke signal.
With Would that be the ex-fireman that said that, retired fireman?
Oh,
Vice Chair Dobreen, it looks like we have both Deb and Paul from the OPP now.
Well, there's Paul now.
Good morning, everybody. My sincere apologies. We had some confusion on this end and thought the meeting perhaps was canceled. That goes to our faith in technology that we received a message and believed in it without confirming. So my sincere apologies, but we're here now.
Good. You can go ahead with your report. I'm going to suggest you don't have to read it all to us. We're pretty big people and we should have read it. But if you can go through it all if you wish, or you can just hit some of the highlights that you would like to bring to our attention. Thank you.
Certainly. I
The
thought,
floor is yours.
thank you so much. I thought I'd do a bit of an introduction of myself for those I haven't had the opportunity to meet personally or are not familiar with me. I was in South Bruce Peninsula yesterday, and I had dealt with that police service board in the past, but there's some faces and some names here I don't recognize, so I thought I'd take a second just to introduce myself. And wanted to first, before I started, and I apologize to Deb, I didn't do this yesterday in the meeting yesterday, but I certainly wanted to publicly and recognize Deb and all her efforts and all her dedication to both Southgate and Grey Bruce Detachment. Her dedication and investment in this detachment in this area have been significant. And as you can see, we're still going to benefit from Deb being part of the team here and frankly helping me along as I acclimate to a new job. So I really just wanted to start the meeting by giving Deb a great big thank you and many kudos for all she's done and all she will do. So my thanks to Deb.
Thank you.
A little bit about myself. I have 21 years in policing. I like to say that I've done everything that you can do at a detachment, but I never go so far as to say that I know everything, because policing is a very good teacher. Just when you think you've done it all, something comes along and reminds you that there's something new or something different, and that's probably the best part of the job. As a matter of fact, it's the thing I enjoy most. So in my 21 years, I started at the South Bruce Detachment as a constable, and there I worked in Marine, working my way up to be a launch operator. So I have some Marine experience. I've done drug investigations. I've been in the crime unit. I've done every type of investigation, including a homicide investigation. I was promoted to sergeant in Bruce Peninsula and then returned to South Bruce, where I was promoted to staff sergeant. In that time, I was an operations manager, and I was also the detachment commander in Bruce Peninsula and Bancroft for a short time. As I call it my side gigs, I'm a public order unit commander, so you may have seen the activities in Ottawa and Windsor. I would be one of the people that would coordinate the efforts of our public order people on ground. I'm also a critical incident commander, so I work with our tactical teams in high-risk incidents such as hostages, barricades, things of that nature. So I deal with our tactical teams as well. I love detachment. I think it's the core of our business. The service to our communities is the most important thing we do. So I've always navigated back to detachment, even after working in specialty units in crime. My passion has always been detachment and being part of the community. When people call the police, what they want to see is a person in uniform in a black and white cruiser and somebody to meet the needs of whatever they're facing that day. So that's always been my passion. I'm happy to be here to do that in these communities. So having said that, are there any questions about me or my career before I move on to the report? That was a lot talking about my favorite subject, me, so I'll move on to something else now.
Carry on.
Okay, thank you. So in looking at the report, I'm looking at the calls for service. I did want to touch on one thing particularly for your community. It's not lost on me that there's significant development occurring in that area. And I think as we look to the future, and not focus on today, but focus on the future and the needs of policing in your community, we're going to have to be alive to the demands of the development that are going on and make sure that we're in a position to respond to what you're seeing in your communities. Our business is people, and the people business, the more people, the more work. It's a relatively simple equation. So as you get more people, there'll be more work, and we as a detachment have to be in a position to address that and meet the needs of your community. So I want you to know that that's not lost on us here. I'm looking at the particularly violent crime and the assaults. Or actually, I'd like to go back to the 911 hangups. I always like to focus on this statistic. And the reason I like to focus on this is just the change in numbers. We in the OPP, as I'm sure you're aware, changed our process as it relates to 911 hangups, not responding to each and every one, giving our call center, our communication center, our consummate professionals an opportunity to vet those and make sure we only respond to the ones that are necessary to respond to. And by doing that, our calls for service in relation to those calls have reduced significantly. And what that allows, it allows our members to be on the road and address other calls in the communities and be proactive, traffic and other initiatives in the community. So I'm pleased to report by changing the process, we certainly reduced those calls for service. And there's a billing component to that as well that benefits the communities. When we look at violent crime, the assaults, although compared to last year, are down a little bit. They are relatively consistent with the trends. So I don't see anything of concern in that nature. As we move along to property crimes are they're one of the things that affect people most in our communities, in the sense that there's a sense of vulnerability after somebody has been a victim of a property crime. So we have a vibrant and robust and very effective street crime unit that deals with these type of things, and I'll go into that a little bit later on. But as I look at the property crimes, it suggests they're up a little bit this year, but that's in comparison to last year when we were in a COVID experience. And the best security is for people to be home. During COVID, most people were home, and that certainly provided a level of security, and that would just organically reduce those calls for service. So as people start to move again, there will certainly be an increase in that. The mischiefs are down a little bit from last year, but again, I would say we'll watch that and make sure there's no significant increase or decrease to make sure we're alive to it. Domestic disputes, they're relatively consistent. Some of our most volatile and important investigations. We put a lot of resources into those, and rightfully so. I see that missing persons are down to 1, which is a good news story. Generally, missing people are some of the most vulnerable in our communities, whether it be the youth, children, or the elderly. Typically are our missing persons. Our crime unit continues to be very busy, and you may have seen the media from over the weekend. They're still very busy. They're helping West Grey with the homicide investigation that happened in their area, and the subject was located in our area. And with the combined and collaborative efforts of our aviation, so our helicopter, our tactical team, our ERT team, our crime unit members, great dedication, investment from our frontline members, that person was brought into custody. And providing a level of security and safety to the community again. But when it comes to those type of complex investigations, I always say the hard work is just beginning. So our crime unit will be involved in that. putting resources to that. Speaking about the street crime unit that I touched on briefly, Acting Detective Sergeant Jeff Dudley, who authored this portion of the report, has gone back to his home position, and we're pleased to welcome back Detective Sergeant Jamie Blair. I've worked with Jamie for many, many years, and he brings extraordinary experience to this role. Having worked in some high-level investigations, complex investigations, and specialized units, he brings all that experience back to our crime unit, and we can certainly expect big things from him. I do like to put him on the spot as well. When we look at traffic, which is always a significant consideration for each community, as having been a detachment commander in many communities since 2017, consistently the one issue that rises to the top and seems to be of foremost concern for people is traffic. And I can see in June there were some significant charges laid, and we continue to focus in the areas of where it's most necessary to be. I like to take an analytical approach to traffic enforcement. And in that, I mean looking at data to evaluate crash data, to evaluate previous history in the area, and to evaluate our known speeders in the area. Resources, as you know, are not infinite. So we like to put the right people in the right place at the right time. So my approach to traffic enforcement has always been one of analysis based on crashes and the data we receive from some of our data gathering devices. But there's always a portion for community input and recognizing that communities do like to see the police, and I'm very happy they like to see the police. That's a good day for us. So we'll continue to make that a consideration in our resource allocation. I want to touch on media briefly. I don't know if you were able to see some of the videos that Nick Wilson put out over the weekend in relation to the homicide. It was, I was very pleased with the professionalism of Nick and the polished package he was able to put together and represent in the media. He represented the OPP very well. You can expect to see more in the social media realm from the OPP. There's an immediacy to the need for information within our society today. And the way we consume media has changed significantly. A lot of people still rely on traditional sources, but they also rely heavily on social media. So we're going to try and balance the needs of traditional media with social media and satisfy the need for immediate information within our society. Having said that, we will also always make sure that it's accurate. And having the greatest respect for the weather outside and that it's July and there may be things that other people might want to do. Subject to any questions or concerns, that's the entirety of the report. But I did want to see if Staff Anderson wanted to top up anything there that I missed or that she wanted to touch on, or perhaps something that was of concern in previous meetings that I didn't address.
Inspector, just a couple of things, criminal record checks and the change there, as well as our part-time officer program.
Well, go ahead, Deb.
As I reported in the past, we were fortunate enough to be able to recruit back 4 part-time officers to work on certain administrative tasks that took our frontline officers off complete. And by them taking on those tasks, it allowed them to stay out on the road and do proactive enforcement and that sort of thing. So the way we funded that program was any given time West Region had so many officers off on WSIB being paid by insurance, their salary dollars were sitting there. So the change recently has been to look at each WSIB case individually, but there are decisions being made to overfill those positions rather than what we normally had to wait 30 months. So given that, there's a lot less salary dollars available. And with that, our part-time officers will be done their retiring once again around the September 15th time period. But we will be gaining officers, frontline officers in place over time. So I just wanted to make the board aware of that because they did report on their report in the past on their work that they did at Detachment. And the criminal record checks, we have gone centralized to a point. So right now there's a program that makes the criminal record checks much more efficient. The turnaround time is about 24 to 48 hours at this time. And come September, we will be going fully automated on that. And so right now, the only way to get a criminal record check is online. There is still a need at times, depending on what criminal record check somebody wants, that somebody might have to come into the detachment to be fingerprinted for the vulnerable sector checks. But as it stands now, come September, it'll be fully automated and it'll be provincial wide. And Inspector, unless I've missed anything, that's all I had.
No, thanks very much. That was a comprehensive coverage of it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone have any questions? I'll take the silence as a no. And we'll go to confirmation of the next meeting, which is Tuesday, July the 19th, 2022 at 9 a.m.
Sorry, Vice Chair Dobreen, the next meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, September 20th at 9 a.m.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I've gone too far up. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
And again, my apologies for the delay this morning. I know everybody's busy. I certainly don't like to hold people up. So my apologies for that. And you can rest assured on the 20th, we will be on time.
Members privilege, Alan?
We did that already.
You did?
Yes, we did.
Well,
Thank Dale Pallister for his service.
Yeah, that was an opinion. I've got something for the members' privilege. I'm going to repeat what I said earlier on while we were waiting for the detachment. I'd like to thank.
Go ahead.
I'd like to thank Paul for joining our team here at Grey Bruce. It's nice to have you, Paul. Some fresh blood. And I'd especially like to thank Deborah for the way she has handled the detachment during her venue here. The one thing that I really liked was when I started with Mark Vanland in 2003, all of the reports were rubber stamped. It was the same thing at every meeting. When Deborah came in, she made some remarkable changes. The whole report now can be read easily and understand. So for that, Deborah, I thank you very much. And that's it for me. Thank you. Oh, by the way, the reason that Alan is doing the chair is that I had eye surgery yesterday and I can't see a damn thing. I can't read anything. All I can see are images on the screen here. And without some identification, I can't tell who is who. I can detect the former mayor with the white beard, and I can detect the existing mayor with a black beard. And that's about it.
Okay, well, Jim, we wish you a speedy recovery.
Thank you.
So for the confirmation of the next meeting, we didn't have a mover or seconder. That's for Tuesday, September 20th, 2022 at 9 a.m. My apologies for my other error. Mover?
We don't actually need a mover and seconder for that.
Okay, then. Okay.
They're predetermined.
Well, then, adjournment. We need a mover and a seconder for that.
So moved on.
And John will second it. And welcome Paul from Southgate, and thank you, Deb.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Bye.